Good evening and welcome to the first of 3 debates among the major candidates for President of the United States, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The candidates are Independent candidate Ross Perot, Governor Bill Clinton, the Democratic nominee, and President George Bush, the Republican nominee. I am Jim Lara of the McNeil-Lara NewsHour on PBS, and I will be the moderator for this 90-minute event, which is taking place before an audience here in the athletic complex on the campus of Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. 3 journalists will be asking questions tonight. They are John Mashik of the Boston Globe, Ann Compton of ABC News, and Sandra Van Oker, a freelance journalist. We will follow a format agreed to by representatives of the Clinton and Bush campaigns. That agreement contains no restrictions on the content or subject matter of the questions. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order of those, as well as the questioning, was determined by a drawing. The first question goes to Mr. Perot. He will have 2 minutes to answer, to be followed by rebuttals of 1 minute each from Governor Clinton and then President Bush. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Jim.
The first topic tonight is what separates each of you from the other. Mr. Perot, what do you believe tonight is the single most important separating issue of this campaign?
I think the principal issue that separates me is that 5.5 million people came together on their own and put me on the ballot. I was not put on the ballot by either of the 2 parties. I was not put on the ballot by any PAC money, by any foreign lobbyist money, by any special interest money. This is a movement that came from the people. This is the way the framers of the Constitution intended our government to be, a government that comes from the people. Over time, we have developed a government that comes at the people, that comes from the top down, where the people are more or less treated as objects to be programmed during the campaign with commercials and media events and fear messages and personal attacks and things of that nature. The thing that separates my candidacy and makes it unique is that this came from millions of people in 50 states all over this country who wanted a candidate that worked and belonged to nobody but them. I go into this race as their servant, and I belong to them. So this comes from the people.
Governor Clinton, 1 minute response.
Well, they've got a point. I don't have any experience in running up a $4 trillion debt. I don't have any experience in gridlock government where nobody takes responsibility for anything and everybody blames everybody else. I don't have any experience in creating the worst public school system in the industrialized world, the most violent, crime-ridden society in the industrialized world, but I do have a lot of experience in getting things done. So if we're at a point in history where we want to stop talking about it and do it, I've got a lot of experience in figuring out how to solve problems, making the solutions work, and then moving on to the next one. I've got a lot of experience in not taking 10 years to solve a 10-minute problem. So if it's time for action, I think I have experience that counts. If there's more time for gridlock and talk and finger pointing, I'm the wrong man.
President Bush,
I think American people will make their own decisions on character. And at a time when we have work to do and we need action, I think they need to clearly understand the backgrounds of each person. I think the press can play a huge role in making sure that the backgrounds are clearly presented in an objective way. Then make a decision. Certainly anyone in the White House should have the character to be there. But I think it's very important to measure when and where things occurred. Did they occur when you were a young person in your formative years, or did they occur while you were a senior official in the federal government? When you're a senior official in the federal government spending billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and you're a mature individual, and you make a mistake, then that was on our ticket. If you make it as a young man, time passes. So I would say just, look at all three of us, decide who you think will do the job, pick that person in November, because believe me, as I've said before, the party's over, and it's time for the cleanup crew. And we do have to have change, and people who never take responsibility for anything when it happens on their watch, and people who are in charge.
Your time is
Time
up.
is up.
Time is up.
More later.
More.
We're all gonna rock to the rules that I made. I wanna be elected.
We've got to have a growing, expanding job base to give us a growing, expanding tax base. Right now, we have a flat to deteriorating job base, and where it appears to be growing, it's minimum wage jobs. So we've got to really rebuild our job base. That's going to take money for infrastructure and investment to do that. Our foreign competitors are doing it. We're not. We cannot pay off the $4 trillion debt, balance the budget, and have the industries of the future and the high-paying jobs in this country without having the revenue. We're going to go through a period of shared sacrifice. There's one challenge. It's got to be fair. We've created a mess, don't have much to show for it, and we have got to fix it. And that's about all I can say in a minute.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. The candidate is taking the country by storm.
Mr. Perot, 1 minute, sir.
If I'm poor and you're rich, and I can get you to defend me, that's good. But when the tables get turned, I ought to do my share. Right now, we spend about $300 billion a year on defense. The Japanese spend around $30 billion in Asia. The Germans spend around $30 billion in Europe. For example, Germany will spend $1 trillion building infrastructure over the next 10 years. It's kind of easy to do if you only have to pick up a $30 billion tab to defend your country. The European community is in a position to pay a lot more than they have in the past. I agree with the President. When they couldn't, we should have. Now that they can, they should. We sort of seem to have a desire to try to stay over there and control it. They don't want us to control it, very candidly. So I think, is very important for us to let them assume more and more of the burden, and for us to bring that money back here and rebuild our infrastructure, because we can only be a superpower if we are an economic superpower, and we can only be an economic superpower if we have a growing, expanding job base.
Mr. Perot, you talked about fairness just a minute ago on sharing the pain. As part of your plan to reduce the ballooning federal deficit, you've suggested that we raise gasoline taxes 50 cents a gallon over 5 years. Why punish the middle-class consumer to such a degree?
It's 10 cents a year cumulative. It finally gets to 50 cents at the end of the 5th year. I think punish is the wrong word. Again, see, I didn't create this problem. We're trying to solve it. Now, if you study our international competitors, some of our international competitors collect up to $3.50 a gallon in taxes, and they use that money to build infrastructure and create jobs. We collect 35 cents, and we don't have it to spend. I know it's not popular, and I understand the nature of your question, but the people who will be helped the most by it are the working people who will get the jobs created because of this tax. Why do we have to do it? Because we have so mismanaged our country over the years, and it is now time to pay the fiddler, and if we don't, we will be spending our children's money. We have spent $4 trillion worth. An incredible number of young people are active in supporting my effort because they're deeply concerned that we have taken the American dream from them. I think it's fitting that we're on the campus of a university tonight. These young people, when they get out of this wonderful university, will have difficulty finding a job. We've got to clean this mess up, leave this country in good shape, and pass on the American dream to them. We've got to collect the taxes to do it. If there's a fairer way, I'm all ears. But, see, let me make it very clear. If people don't have the stomach to fix these problems, I think it's a good time to face it in November. If they do, then they will have heard the harsh reality of what we have to do. I'm not playing Lawrence Welk music tonight.
Mr. Perot? Mr. Perot, you have 1 minute, sir.
Well, your defense industries are going to have to convert to civilian industries. Many of them are. And the sooner they start, the sooner they'll finish. And there will be a significant transition. And it's very important that we not continue to let our industrial base deteriorate. We had someone who I'm sure regrets said it in the president's staff said he didn't care whether we made potato chips or computer chips. Well, anybody that thinks about it cares a great deal. Number one, you make more making computer chips than you do potato chips. Number two, 19 out of 20 computer chips that we have in this country now come from Japan. We've given away whole industries. So as we phase these industries over, there's a lot of intellectual talent in these industries. A lot of these people and industries can be converted to the industries of tomorrow. And that's where the high-paying jobs are. We need to have a very carefully thought-through phase over. Now, we practice 19th century capitalism. The rest of the world practices 21st century capitalism. We've got, I can't handle that in a minute, but I hope we can get back into it later. In the rest of the world, the countries and the businesses would be working together to make this transition in an intelligent way.
United States of America!
Mr. Perot, you talked a minute ago about rebuilding the job base, but is it true what Governor Clinton just said, that that means that unemployment will increase, that it'll slow the economy? And how would you specifically use the powers of the presidency to get more people back into good jobs immediately?
Step one, the American people send me up there the day after election. I'll get with the Congress. We won't even wait till inauguration. And I'll ask the president to help me, and I'll ask his staff to help me. And we will start putting together teams to take all the plans that exist and do something with them. Please understand, there are great plans lying all over Washington. Nobody ever executes. It's like having a blueprint for a house you never built. You don't have anywhere to sleep. Now, our challenge is to take these things, do something with them. Step one, you want to put America back to work, clean up the small business problem. Have one task force that work on that. The second, you've got your big companies that are in trouble, including the defense industries. Have another one on that. Have a third task force on new industries of the future to make sure we nail those for our country and they don't wind up in Europe and Asia. Convert from 19th to 21st century capitalism. See, we have an adversarial relationship between government and business. Our international competitors that are cleaning our plate have an intelligent relationship between government and business and a supportive relationship. Then have another task force on crime, because next to jobs, our people are concerned about their safety. Health care, schools, one on the debt and deficit, and finally in that 90-day period before the inauguration, put together the framework for the town hall and give the American people a Christmas present. Show them by Christmas the first cut at these plans. By the time Congress comes into session, go to work, have those plans ready to go in front of Congress, then get off to a flying start in '93 to execute these plans. Now, there are people in this room and people on this stage who have been in meetings when I would sit there and say, is this one we're going to talk about or do something about? Well, obviously, my orientation is let's go do it. Now, put together your plans by Christmas. Be ready to go when Congress goes. Nail these things. Small business, you've got to have capital, you've got to have credit, and many of them need mentors or coaches. And we can create more jobs there in a hurry than any other place.
Governor.
Top line couldn't meet, I'm your choice. I wanna be elected. I can't do a dandy in a gold Rolls Royce. I wanna be elected. Kids wanna save you, don't need a fake. I wanna be elected. We're all gonna rock to the rules that I make. I wanna be elected.
Keep the Federal Reserve independent, but let's live in a world of reality. We live in a global economy, not a national economy. These interest rates we have now don't make any sense. We have a $4 trillion debt, and only in America would you finance 70% of it 5 years or less. So 70% of our debt is 5 years or less. It's very interest sensitive. We have a 4% gap between what we pay for treasuries and what Germany pays for 1 to 5 year treasuries. That gap is going to close because the Arabs, the Japanese, and folks in this country are going to start buying German treasuries because they can get more money. Every time our interest rates go up 1%, that adds $28 billion to the deficit or to the debt, whichever place you want to put it. We are sitting on a ticking bomb, folks, because we have totally mismanaged our country, and we had better get it back under control. Just think, in your own business, if you had all of your long-term problems financed short-term, you'd go broke in a hurry.
All right, we're going to move to foreign affairs. The first question goes to Mr. Perot for a 2-minute answer, and Sandy will ask it.
Mr. Perot, in the post-war Cold War environment, what should be the overriding U.S. national interest? And what can the United States do, and what can it afford to do to defend that national interest?
Well, again, if you're not rich, you're not a superpower, so we have two that I'd put as number one. I have 1 and 1A. One is we've got to have the money to be able to pay for defense. And we've got to manufacture here. Believe it or not, folks, you can't ship it all overseas. You got to make it here. And you can't convert from potato chips to airplanes in an emergency. See, Willow Run could be converted from cars to airplanes in World War II because it was here. We've got to make things here. You just can't ship them overseas anymore. I hope we talk more about that. Second thing, on priorities, we've got to help Russia succeed in its revolution and all of its republics. When we think of Russia, remember we're thinking of many countries now. We've got to help them. That's pennies on the dollar compared to renewing the Cold War. Third, we've got all kinds of agreements on paper and some that are being executed on getting rid of nuclear warheads. Russia and its republics are out of control, or at best in weak control right now. It's a very unstable situation. You've got every rich Middle Eastern country over there trying to buy nuclear weapons, as you well know. And that will lead to another 5-star migraine headache down the road. We really need to nail down the intercontinental ballistic missiles, the ones that can hit us from Russia. And we're focused on the tactical. We've made real progress there. We've got some agreements on the nuclear, but we don't have those things put away yet. The sooner the better. So in terms of priorities, we've got to be financially strong. Number two, we've got to take care of this missile situation and try to get the nuclear war behind us and give that a very high priority. And number three, we need to help and support Russia and the republics in every possible way to become democratic, capitalistic societies and not just sit back and let those countries continue in turmoil, because they could go back worse than things used to be. And believe me, there are a lot of old boys in the KGB and the military that liked it better the way it used to be. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs.
1 minute, Mr. Perot.
China's a huge country, broken into many provinces. It has some very elderly leaders that will not be around too much longer. Capitalism is growing and thriving across big portions of China. Asia will be our largest trading partner in the future. It will be a growing and a closer relationship. We have a delicate, tight wire walk that we must go through at the present time to make sure that we do not cozy up to tyrants, to make sure that they don't get the impression that they can suppress their people. But time is our friend there, because their leaders will change in not too many years, worst case. And their country is making great progress. One last point on the missiles. I don't want the American people to be confused. We have written agreements, and we have some missiles that have been destroyed. But we have a huge number of intercontinental ballistic missiles that are still in place in Russia. The fact that you have an agreement is one thing. Till they're destroyed, some crazy person can either sell them or use them.
I always been. I wanna be elected. I got to get the vote, and I told you about. I wanna be elected.
Go to Mr. Perot for a 1 minute response.
I think if we learned anything in Vietnam, it's you first commit this nation before you commit the troops to the battlefield. We cannot send our people all over the world to solve every problem that comes up. This is basically a problem that is a primary concern to the European community. Certainly, we care about the people, we care about the children, we care about the tragedy, but it is inappropriate for us, just because there's a problem somewhere around the world, to take the sons and daughters of working people, and make no mistake about it, our all-volunteer armed force is not made up of the sons and daughters of the beautiful people. It's the working folks who send their sons and daughters to war, with a few exceptions. Very unlike World War II, when FDR's sons flew missions. Everybody went. It's a different world now. Very important that we not just, without thinking it through, just rush to every problem in the world and have our people torn to pieces.
Governor.
If I had to solve all the problems that face this country, and I could be granted one wish as we started down the trail to rebuild the job base, the schools, and so on and so forth, I would say a strong family unit in every home, where every child is loved, nurtured, and encouraged. A little child before they're 18 months learns to think well of himself or herself or poorly. They develop a positive or negative self-image. At a very early age, they learn how to learn. If we have children who are not surrounded with love and affection, see, I look at my grandchildren and wonder if they'll ever learn to walk, because they're always in someone's arms. And I think, my gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if every child had that love and support? But they don't. We will not be a great country unless we have a strong family unit in every home. And I think you can use the White House as a bully pulpit to stress the importance of these little children, particularly in their young and formative years, to mold these little precious pieces of clay so that they too can live rich, full lives when they're grown.
Mr. Perot? Mr. Perot, 1 minute.
Anytime you think you want to legalize drugs, go to a neonatal unit, if you can get in. They're between 100 and 200% capacity up and down the East Coast. And the reason is crack babies being born. Babies in the hospital 42 days. Typical cost to you and me is $125,000. Again and again and again, the mother disappears in 3 days, and the child becomes a ward of the state because he's permanently and genetically damaged. Just look at those little children, and if anybody can even think about legalizing drugs, they've lost me. Now let's look at priorities. You know, we went on the Libyan raid. Remember that one? Because we were worried to death that Gaddafi might be building up chemical weapons. We've got chemical warfare being conducted against our children on the streets in this country all day, every day, and we don't have the will to stamp it out. And again, if I get up there, if you send me, we're going to have some blunt talks about this, and we're really going to get out in the trenches and say, is this one you want to talk about or fix? Because talk won't do it, folks. There are guys that couldn't get a job third shift in a Dairy Queen, driving BMWs and Mercedes selling drugs. And these old boys are not going to quit easy.
Next question is to you, Mr. Perot. You have 2 minutes to answer it, and John will ask it.
Mr. Perot, racial division continues to tear apart our great cities, the last episode being this spring in Los Angeles. Why is this still happening in America, and what would you do to end it?
All right, this is a relevant question here tonight. First thing I'd do is during political campaigns, I would urge everybody to stop trying to split this country into fragments and appeal to the differences between us, and then wonder why the melting pot's all broken to pieces after November the 3rd. We are all in this together. We ought to love one another, because united teams win and divided teams lose. And if we can't love one another, we ought to get along with one another. And if you can't get there, just recognize we're all stuck with one another because nobody's going anywhere, right? Now, that ought to get everybody back up to let's get along together and make it work. Our diversity is a strength. We've turned it into a weakness. Now, again, the White House is a bully pulpit. I think whoever's in the White House should just make it absolutely unconscionable and inexcusable. And if anybody's in the middle of a speech at a one of these conventions, I would expect the candidate to go out and lift him off the stage if he starts preaching hate, because we don't have time for it. See, our differences are our strengths. We have got to pull together. In athletics, we know it. See, divided teams lose, united teams win. We have got to unite and pull together, and there's nothing we can't do. But if we sit around blowing all this energy out the window on racial strife and hatred, we are stuck with a sure loser, because we have been a melting pot. We're becoming more and more of a melting pot. Let's make it a strength, not a weakness.
One minute, Mr. Perot.
First, I think Mary Fisher was a great choice. We're lucky to have her heading the commission. Secondly, I think one thing that if I were sent to do the job, I would sit down with FDA, look exactly where we are. Then I would really focus on, let's get these things out. If you're going to die, you don't have to go through this 10-year cycle that FDA goes through on new drugs. Believe me, people with AIDS are more than willing to take that risk. And we could be moving out to the human population a whole lot faster than we are on some of these new drugs. So I think we can expedite the problem there. Let me go back a minute to racial divisiveness. All-time low in our country was the Judge Thomas Anita Hill hearings, and those senators ought to be hanging their heads in shame for what they did there. Second thing, not many times in your life when you get to talk to the whole country, but let me just say this to all of America. If you hate people, I don't want your vote. That's how strongly I feel about it.
Governor Clinton.
Mr. Perot, even if you've got what people say are the guts to take on changes in the most popular, the most sacred of the entitlements, Medicare, people say you haven't a prayer of actually getting anything passed in Washington. Since a president isn't a lone ranger, How in the world can you make some of those unpopular changes?
Two ways. Number one, if I get there, it will be a very unusual and historical event because the people, not the special interests, put me there. I will have a unique mandate. I have said again and again, and this really upsets the establishment in Washington, that we're going to inform the people in detail on the issues through an electronic town hall so that they really know what's going on. They will want to do what's good for our country. Now, all these fellows with $1,000 suits and alligator shoes running up and down the halls of Congress that make policy now, the lobbyists, the PAC guys, the foreign lobbyists, and what have you, they'll be over there in the Smithsonian, you know. Because we're going to get rid of them. And the Congress will be listening to the people, and the American people are willing to have fair, shared sacrifice. They're not as stupid as Washington thinks they are. The American people are bright, intelligent, caring, loving people who want a great country for their children and grandchildren. And they will make those sacrifices. So I welcome that challenge, and just watch. Because if the American people send me there, we'll get it done. Now, everybody will faint in Washington. They've never seen anything happen in that town. This is a town where the White House says Congress did it, Congress says the White House did it, and I'm sitting there and say, well, who else could be around? You know, then when they get off by themselves, they said nobody did it. And yet the cash register is empty, and it used to have our money, the taxpayers' money, in it, and we didn't get the results. No, we'll get it done. We'll have to cheat.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America in Washington, D.C. The candidate is taking the country by storm.
Mr. Perot, 1 minute.
We got the most expensive health care system in the world, ranks behind 15 other nations, and when we come to life expectancy, and 22 other nations when we come to infant mortality. So we don't have the best. Pretty simple, folks. If you're paying more and you don't have the best, if all else fails, go copy the people who have the best, who spend less, right? Well, we can do better than that. Again, we've got plans lying all over the place in Washington. Nobody ever implements them. Now, I'm back to square one. If you want to stop talking about it and do it, then I'll be glad to go up there and we'll get it done. But if you just want to keep the music going, just stay traditional this next time around. And this 4 years from now, you'll have everybody blaming everybody else for a bad health care system. Talk is cheap. Words are plentiful. Deeds are precious. Let's get on with it.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. That was, in fact, the final question and answer. We're now going to move to closing statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. The order, remember, was determined by a drawing, and Mr. Perot, you were first.
Well, it's been a privilege to be able to talk to the American people tonight. I make no bones about it. I love this country. I love the principle it's founded on. I love the people here. I don't like to see the country's principles violated. I don't like to see the people in a deteriorating economy and a deteriorating country because our government has lost touch with the people. The people in Washington are good people. We just have a bad system. We've got to change the system. It's time to do it because we have run up so much debt that time is no longer our friend. We've got to put our house in order. When you go to bed tonight, look at your children. Think of their dreams. Think of your dreams as a child and ask yourself, isn't it time to stop talking about it? Isn't it time to stop creating images? Isn't it time to do it? Aren't you sick of being treated like an unprogrammed robot? Every 4 years, they send you all kinds of messages to tell you how to vote. and then go back to business as usual. They told you at the Tax and Budget Summit that if you agreed to a tax increase, we could balance the budget. They didn't tell you that that same year they increased spending $1.83 for every dollar we increased taxes. That's Washington in a nutshell right there. In the final analysis, I'm doing this for your children. So when you look at them tonight, there's another group that I feel very close to. And these are the men and women who fought on the battlefield, the children, the families, the ones who died, the people who left parts of their bodies over there. I'd never ask you to do anything for me, but I owe you this, and I'm doing it for you. And I can't tell you what it means to me at these rallies when I see you, and you come up, and the look in your eyes, and I know how you feel, and you know how I feel. And then I think of the older people who are retired. They grew up in the Depression. They fought and won World War II. We owe you a debt we can never repay you, and the greatest repayment I can ever give is to recreate the American dream for your children and grandchildren. I'll give it everything I have if you want me to do it.